welcome to Life Talk for Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Thank you for joining us. Listen, again, you can see we're on a different day today than what we normally are doing. We're still searching around for the best way to serve you guys. And one of the things that we're learning is that Mondays and Fridays are fairly slow on the internet. They're the slowest days on the internet for Facebook Live. And so we've gone now to a Tuesday, Thursday days schedule because those days seem to get a lot bigger audience, and that's what we're trying to do is reach as big an audience as we can with the pro-life message. So for right now, we're going to be coming to you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If something changes or if you see something different out there that we need to know about, you should be sure and let us know.
And be sure to share.
And be sure to share with us about that or anything else as we keep telling you. We need you to be sending Renee your ideas for shows, and we will get to those as we can. Very often the victories in the abortion movement, pro-life movement, get kind of swept under the rug by the pro-abortion media because they don't want people to know. It's like when abortion clinics closed, and there's several articles right now out, the pro-abort's alarmed about the number of abortion clinics that are shutting down.
Right.
And as we talk about that here all the time, the numbers have plummeted.
Right.
Since just in the last few years. We've gone from over 2,100 freestanding abortion clinics to just about 525 or
something like that.
550, something like that.
Yep.
And
they're dropping off like flies.
They're dropping like flies. They can't drop fast enough for me.
No, I know.
But
exactly.
We've had enormous victories, but those very seldom get talked about. Now even the media is having to talk about those.
Yeah.
But we had another victory here the last few days that no one seems to be talking about too much, but I think ultimately it could be as big a victory as anything. And we've got an old friend of ours, or should I say, longtime friend.
A long time, yes.
Yeah. He's pretty old though. He's no pup. He's just not as old as me.
Spring chicken, right?
He's no spring chicken. But
yeah.
Anyway, Clenard Childress is joining us from New Jersey. What city are you in right now in New Jersey?
Montclair, New Jersey.
Montclair, that's your home city, right?
Yes.
All right. And like I said, Clenard's an old-time friend of ours. He's a pastor of a black church in New Jersey. And he was in MAFA 21. Matter of fact, he told me one time that he thought he was the star of MAFA 21.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet he didn't do that. I bet he probably humbled himself. And yeah.
No, he didn't really. He told me. He said, Johnny Hunter thinks he was the star. He said, but really, I was the star of the thing.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, Clenard joins us here. Pastor Clenard joins us from New Jersey. Tell us about what happened here. This, for people who don't know, what was the initial problem that you had encountered?
Yes, right down there at the African American Museum. And, of course, it is a new edifice, and there was much talk about it, actually suggested by George Bush to be built and under his administration. And we went there because we were very much concerned about the displays, those that were being chosen to be represented in the museum certainly did not reflect the Judeo-Christian ethic of the African-American experience. As a matter of fact, it's subliminally biased and deliberately so that those who would go to the museum basically have a grievance indoctrination and make it very anti-American and anti-Judeo-Christian ethic, and subliminally speaking. So you have to go through. So unquestionably,
let's let people understand this. Let's let people understand this is the new Museum of African American Culture in Washington, D.C.
Yes, a humongous structure. It's beautiful and needed if indeed it was going to be for the intent and purpose for which it was built, but it has turned out to be a citadel of propaganda as far as I'm concerned, and purposely done. It is quite deliberate. And when you have Clarence Thomas omitted, Mia Love, the first black African-American woman to be elected as a Republican congresswoman, omitted, when you have Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick in, and them out, I think it's quite clear what your agenda is.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that. Colin Kaepernick is in this museum,
Yes.
but Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court is not in it.
No, and they said there was no room for him.
But they found room for Colin
I
Kaepernick.
was going to say, yeah, they make
And
room
that's
for
just
who they
recently
want.
they did this.
Yeah,
That's
that's
This
sickening.
is sad, and I'm very upset. I'll be quite honest with you. If I ever get a chance to address our Congress, they need a little backbone here. I'm a lay person. I'm not in and out of Washington. I'm not certainly of the political elite, but they represent this country and this nation, and that museum is anti-Christian and it's anti-American. So it's amazing to me that no congressperson stood up and said we need to challenge this, because we can see what this really subliminally is suggesting and what their real motives are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did find room for Margaret Sanger.
Well, they found room for her at the portrait gallery. It's funny you should say that. I said I need to take a walk completely through this museum. Day tickets are now just opening up, and I plan to be there on Thursday. So this call is timely today. If Margaret Sanger is in there, it is news to me, but she would be probably projected as she was in the Smithsonian portrait gallery as a social hero of women and the country. As a matter of fact, she was voted in the top 100 of notable women in America, something along that line. And we will visit there also on October 9th. But
we're seeing all this stuff all over the country of Confederate statues and things being torn down. Robert E. Lee's statues being taken down in Dallas as we speak. And whatever you feel about that situation, and Stonewall Jackson, of course, is another big one that's being taken down. If you looked at the history of Stonewall Jackson and you looked at the history of Margaret Sanger was much greater a racist than Stonewall Jackson was. Why are we not taking her stuff out of the public square?
Stonewall Jackson sought to educate, and I'm not vindicating anyone. I'm not trying to give him a pass, but the fact of the matter is he was called a friend of the black man.
Right.
And he tried to educate. He tried to make sure, and of course, the atmosphere at that time. You did not educate a slave, but that was his priority. My point is that Margaret Sanger sought to eliminate, to kill, called them human weeds. They weren't worth the time and effort of any social program to assist them in any type of upward mobility. So I'm telling you right now, if Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson have to come down, Margaret Sanger is coming down.
Right.
Amen to that.
Margaret, that's my attitude about it.
That's
and
right.
Anyone who would say anything other than that is extremely biased, hypocritical, and depraved, as far as I'm concerned.
Or perhaps just stupid, but
I don't mind Margaret Sanger being in the African American Museum. Matter of fact, that's going to be a goal of mine, because we're going to talk about her for who she is.
Right.
And I think one of the things I had shared with you earlier, that we want My Alpha 21, which is very well done, the best documentary that speaks about abortion through the African American experience, in the museum. And I know you didn't make it for that, but it very well likely may be the main reason you did, that eventually it winds up right there, because that is the history of eugenics, especially when, once again, from wonderfully done seemingly through the African American experience.
well, let's go back
We
to.
got our work ahead of us, but that is a goal.
But the problem
It's
we're
not
discussing
going to
today.
be lauded as long as I'm around.
But the problem we're discussing today is that you guys were picketing in front of this museum,
Yes.
and you were thrown out by the officials there and told you could not picket, so you sued. And as I understand it, you won your suit here just a couple of days ago. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just a few days ago, and you have to stand. The assistant to the director came out, first told me if we didn't move, there'd be consequences. We were expecting this because they wouldn't let us stand there before. And so at this point, we are all have our cams on. So this is all being recorded, not only sound but picture, video. And they said they called the police, and the police said they would move us by force if we decided not to move. Now, of course, for your listeners to know, it was the public egress where anyone can stand. It's our First Amendment right to be able to stand there. They don't own the sidewalks in the public square, and so therefore they were deliberately and knowledgeably overstepping their boundaries. They knew they had no right. They're not stupid, and they recognized the fact that they felt the present administration at that time, when we first did this, would be supportive, and if we did raise any stink about it, that it would never get any place past that Justice Department, because the Justice Department has to defend any case that's at the Smithsonian. So, of course, Loretta Lynch would have buried it, but now you have Jeff Sessions, and they looked at it and said we were well within our rights to stand where we wanted to, and they wouldn't even go to court over it.
The other side decided not to fight it.
Yes.
That means they knew all along they were wrong.
Oh yeah, and they're
Exactly.
paying the attorney fees too. On top of that,
Who is?
the federal government is paying
That's
for
right.
paying
Robert
for.
Hughes really makes out in this, but anyway.
Well, that's the old joke. What do you call the person who wins in a lawsuit? A lawyer. The lawyers always win, no matter who comes out ahead on the actual suit.
That is true.
But that's good. He
Yes.
he went to bat for you guys. I hope he makes a lot of money off of it.
I do too, and hopefully it'll send the message that we're not backing down. And it's just one of those things also that clearly showed they expected somebody else in the White House.
Right.
They are probably on an 8 to 12-year plan on how this basically museum would impact millions of people, and it would be uncontested. They would basically determine what is in there and who and what can come in and who can stand outside. But that's all shifted now, and we have gotten past that barrier. But we plan to, Greg Cunningham of CBR, myself, Jackie Hawkins, Fletcher, oh, Lord, I forgot his first name, sorry. But anyway, we are looking and petitioning congressmen and senators to diversify their board, which should reflect the American people, since it's the American people's tax dollars that erected that edifice, that building. And so there's unquestionably extremely liberal bias, almost leftist, communist, Marxist in my mindset, but I can at least say extremely liberal, where there is no conservative input or perspective in the museum. And that is an injustice. You ask me personally, I call it criminal, because they unquestionably are trying to indoctrinate the young people that come in there into their ideology. There was an article in the National Review, and that person hit it right on the head. It's to create a grievance culture.
Right.
And so this is not only our opinion. These are other people's opinions who really search and go through the museum. So it's important for us to be there. And you cannot talk about African American history in this country and not talk about eugenics.
No.
And not talk about abortion. That's 20 million African Americans missing from it. It would be like the Jews not wanting to talk about the Holocaust. It's a part of our history. It's a part of our history. It needs to be told. And unfortunately, its seeds and its roots are still deeply settled in this country. And that's one reason why we will be protesting at that museum.
Well, you know, they talk all the time about restricting the vote. Well, nothing restricts the vote of blacks more than abortion.
There's no question about it.
It takes them off the battlefield altogether.
Absolutely, and it's shameful that black leadership too much, and it's changing. I must say, I'm seeing more and more voices. but yet there's still a dominant political voices of African Americans are upholding this ideology and this, obvious effect that has been so detrimental to African Americans is completely ignored, and to the point where it's now absurd. And we have to point out the absurdity, and hopefully that especially the younger generation will say, well, it's our watch now, and this is not going to continue.
Well, so what you're saying basically is yes, you had this victory in the federal court system, and you can stand out there and protest, just like if you had been a left-wing group, they wouldn't have even attempted this nonsense. But you can stand out there, but what you're saying is this is not the end of it. You're going to continue this fight forward. This is not the end of your efforts there.
No, and we're grateful for the victory. It does bring attention to our cause, but certainly they are still operating in my mindset, with the air of impunity, thinking no one's going to challenge them on the presentation of history in that museum. There's people across the globe that are coming to this. I mean, tourists from other nations, and they're going to walk in and see this as this is what African American history is. And this is why, America should be diminished, as far as I'm concerned, if you look at this thing, or why the great sins of America. Now, we know slavery was here, and we know that there were social injustices, but let's tell the whole story. Let's tell the whole story, and let's look at it from a perspective of healing, and not to produce mindsets that would be prone to anarchy. Right.
Well, I'm obviously heartened by this, because I'll tell you something. You've heard me say this before. Matter of fact, you were here when we decided to do the MAFA 21 DVD instead of doing it as a book. Matter of fact, I think you might be the one who told me when I was thinking about writing a book about this. You said, look, the best way to hide stuff from the black community is to put it in a book. And it's either you or Johnny Hunter told me that. And so that's when we decided.
Yeah, I remember I was there.
Yeah, but you were here. But I've always said, as you know from day one, that the day that we get the African-American community fully involved in the struggle against abortion, this fight's over. That's the end of it.
A lot of people don't see that, though, but it is more clear to me every year that I spend in this struggle, because they've created a narrative that they cannot unquestionably uphold and be useful to them if the true spirit of the civil rights movement comes to the forefront now, and African Americans see that this is a tremendous disconnect from what brought us out of slavery and Jim Crow.
Yep, that's right. So that's why each one of these victories that might appear on the surface to be small, okay, now you can stand out there with your sign. I'm sure there will be people out there that will say, okay, big deal, you can stand in front of this museum with your sign. It is a big deal, because, again, when we get the African-American community engaged in this battle, it's over. We win.
And your listeners should know that our commitment is year-round. We're looking to, for the first time in my life, and first time I can think of anything in the pro-life movement, we want to have a year-round presence at this particular museum, and that unquestionably that they would see is that this history they're not going to be the arbiters of our history, but there's going to be other voices that blend in and present what we feel is also African American history, the Clarence Thomases, the Mia Loves. I have to see that there's very little representation of the impact of the black church, from what I understand. It should be unquestionably a greater component of the church's contribution to African American history. I can't vouch for that, so I haven't walked through it myself. But I plan to within the next week or so. But for those who have, they've told me it is subliminally suggested throughout the whole museum is that the faith component is not necessary for the future. And so we have to change that, and it was faith that has got us to this point. And the reason why our communities and this nation is in the turmoil it's in is because salt and light have ceased to be to the degree in which our Heavenly Father would want it, and we have to get back to that cornerstone of faith. We can't remove the old landmarks. We have to come back. But that museum is designed to keep our young people from faith and from the Judeo-Christian ethic.
That's right. Well, listen, obviously, you know our commitment to you is, I mean, how great our commitment to you is. We're going to fight this together, and I'm honored to be in this battle with you. And I know I speak for Renee. I think when she would have the same opinion as I do.
Absolutely, and many of our Facebook followers that are on right now making comments, they are with you as well. So
right. So we're gonna continue to fight this, and we're gonna get Maafa out there so people see what the truth is, and people like you are gonna be on the sidewalks, and we're gonna be here doing the things that we do. We're not gonna go away, and the other side may as well get used to that. That's just the way it's gonna be.
Our goal is to have Maafa on the inside, and hopefully your listeners will be praying for that. And thank God it's something that we could present and not be ashamed of. It's professionally done. It's extremely accurate. It would be a blessing to anyone who would come in. And we wanted to run continuously on loop on the inside.
Well, good. You were the star of it, right? I mean, we've established that.
Well, I'll wait for the awards academy to
Oh yeah, I think you'll be waiting for a while on that, given their political persuasions. But anyway, thanks for joining us, Clenard. And anything new that comes up on this, be sure and let me know. We'll have you back on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
God
All right.
bless, Steph.
What do you think?
it sounds like a victory to me.
Sounds like a big victory to me. This is bigger than most people realize. Yeah. I'm sure most people aren't even aware that this happened, and the press kind of ignored it as it went along, and so most people aren't going to be aware of it, and that's the reason we do Life Talk Live.
Right.
Because we're going to bring stuff to people, which we've done since we started Life Talk in 1999. We've brought you the news that no one else would bring you. That's been our goal, and to give you perspectives on it that you might not have gotten anywhere else. But anyway, anything else you have? You have any?
I don't have anything else. No.
Got nothing.
Got nothing.
Got nothing.
Yes.
All right. Anything you have out there you need to talk about? Anything you want to have Renee and I discuss here on Life Talk? Any subject you think we need to be covering? Anything you think we're overlooking? A story like this, there could be another story out there just as big that we don't know about. So if you do know about something, let us know. Let Renee know. And like we told you before, if we make it a subject on Life Talk, we're going to send you a free a Life Dynamics mug, and that'll be our gift. And we've already sent out some. People have, in the past, have made suggestions for subjects that we covered. So don't be shy about it. Let Renee hear from you.
Yep.
You got anything else there?
Nope. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing will stop. We'll see you on Thursday.
See you then.